versus KT Rolster, Longzhu Gaming versus Jin Air Greenwings, MVP versus Afreeca Freecs, and Kongdoo Monster versus SK Telecom T1. Storylines going into this one, BBQ looked very, very good, coming into winning last week against MVP, and coming this one, KT Rolster, that superstar team, also looking very good, so we're going to see kind of how those two teams match up. Longzhu Gaming and Jin Air Greenwings kind of come out at each other. Two teams that are kind of probably going to end up being pretty close to each other in the standings, so it's interesting to see how those two shake out. MVP versus Afreeca Freecs. Afreeca with Marin looked really, really good week one. We see how they're gonna do. MVP lost to BBQ, but they are trying to prove that they're not a bottom barrel team, which some people might think they are. And then Kongdoo Monster versus SK Telecom T1. Just more of the peanut and Huni experiment and seeing all of that. So how this all worked out, a quick wrap up. If you're new to the show, basically I kind of tell you quickly what happened and then go deeper. So basically, BBQ Olivers lost to KT Rolster. KT Rolster kind of rolled them over 2-0. Longzhu Gaming versus Jin Air Greenwings, very interesting series. I'm probably going to spend most of the time on this series. Jin Air Greenwings is able to not take that one. I was about to say able to take that one, but the opposite of that would happen. Longzhu takes that one in a 3-game series. They Longzhu wins 2-1. MVP versus Afreeca Freecs. MVP makes the upset happen, and they are able to win that 2-1. And then Kongdoo Monster versus SKT. SKT kind of rolled them over 2-0, and we'll quickly go over that once we get to that game. So, for more in-depth analysis going into BBQ Olivers versus KT Rolster. Again, I started becoming kind of hyped about BBQ Olivers after week one. They had a very, very impressive win to me. Tempt, the mid laner for BBQ, looking very solid, like on a LeBlanc game and a Talia game that he played in week one, and look great. And I was really looking forward to seeing this more. I even bought their summoner icon on my league client just for fun, just as like, yeah, BBQ Olivers, and trying to be pumped about them because I really think this team has a ton of potential. But that being said, KT Rolster is likely going to be the number 1 or number 2 team in the LCK. So obviously the superstar team that adds Smeb to this team, and they have Score and Pawn, Depth, and Mata. Like, this team is disgusting. So honestly, there's not a whole lot to talk about other than, like, yeah, it was just kind of a KT Rolster roll show. There was like small positive things that came out of BBQ, and you thought maybe like they can pull something off, but really it was just KT Rolster just being outmatching his BBQ Olivers team, and that's okay. Again, I'm hyped about BBQ Olivers still. I'm not gonna take a loss to probably for sure 1 or 2. Basically a team that's gonna be in the finals, a very, very likely gonna be in the finals of the LCK split. So this BBQ Olivers team is kind of like building itself still, and I'm excited about it. And we'll see where they go. They did beat again. They'd have a very impressive week 1 win against a team that ends up making a big upset later. We'll talk about later. Well, I already told you MVP beat Afreeca Freecs, so it's going to prove that, hey, BBQ Olivers didn't just beat a bad team; they actually are a pretty good team themselves, and we'll see going on. I'm still hyped about this team, and I still want to see where they go. So moving on to the next game, Longzhu Gaming versus Jin Air Greenwings. Again, I said I've spent probably the most time on this one, and mostly because of Game 3. But we'll talk about Game 1. Game 1. We saw a good pick ban, I felt, from Jin Air Greenwings. They come out with the Malzahar pick, and they flex that because obviously Malzahar right now looks a lot like a potential support pick, and that's kind of jazz. So Longzhu Gaming go with Ashe and Zyra for Prey and Gorilla over in their bot lane, and they kind of flex that. Snowflower ends up jumping on the Misfortune, so the Misfortune support being the bit of the counter to Gorilla's Zyra there, and then they move Malzahar over the mid lane to prove that Malzahar is still a very, very good mid laner. And then they have the Assassins on Longzhu Game on Kha'Zix and Talia, and it was basically pretty easy to lock either of those two down when they needed to. Malzahar does a really great job, obviously, with his ultimate to kind of really suppress someone, and Ixu on the Poppy in this game was able to kind of basically do Poppy things and just knock out whoever they needed to knock out, and they could focus down one target, and then it was kind of easy. So like both teams kind of playing a little bit of a pick comp, a little bit of trying to find singular targets, and in this first game, Jin Air Greenwings did it really, really well. So it made this Jin Air Greenwings team. Like I said, they're kind of a little bit like this team that flirts with having a pretty decent roster all the time, but never top tier. Like just like the maybe the top of the middle tier is kind of where Jin Air Greenwings are sitting, and that's where they are. And again, like I said at the top of this show, it did look like Longzhu Gaming and Jin Air Greenwings are probably going to end up somewhere similar in the standing. So the rest of this game makes sense. In game 2, you got to see Fly play that Corki and play it super well in the mid lane, 9-1-4, proving that this Corki pick is gonna be top tier. Well, okay, probably just below the top tiers. So when the top tiers are banned and stuff, or there's direct counters, you can play it. Corki plays pretty well into the Syndra. You're able to pick up something like Malmortius to kind of deal with how that goes on in that matchup. And Jag or Kuzan on Jin Air Greenwings ends up playing that Syndra, so it was a very good pick. Fly looked really good. Crash on the Rengar looked awesome. Giving up the Rengar, I felt like it was a pretty big mistake. And Jin Air Greenwings go again. Ixu goes back to that Kled pick that did not work for him in the first game, and it's really punished for it because Kled's just not very good. Like I think he likes the champion a lot, and that's fine. And I just think Expression just playing Nautilus just was playing a better tank. I think they wanted to go for, I guess, obviously that Kled ult that comes in with a really hard and fast engage. It's not a whole lot that kind of goes for you if that character's behind, though. So Ixu likes Kled, and it's unfortunate because Kled's kind of hype, but it's just I don't think it actually works compared to a lot of other top laners that were available. You could have went the Poppy in this game, that goes unbanned. Like Maokai was banned, but like I feel like even just a Poppy pick probably makes Jin Air Greenwings team comp infinitely better. They have Lee Sin in the jungle against Syndra there, and they have Jin and Malzahar down in the bot lane. So this could have been a comp, but I really think that Kled pick is something Jin Air Greenwings probably has to start shying away from. And then this game 3 that looked like this was just kind of like, for the longest time, it looked like this was Longzhu's game in the bag. In fact, at 34 minutes, you have a 6.1k gold lead, especially the way most LCK games go. If you're there's not a lot of comebacks in the LCK, to be honest. A lot of teams play really clean. You're ahead, you win the game. But and they end up taking a kind of a messy team fight where most of the kills end up going over towards Jin Air Greenwings, and then they take a couple towers. So they end up taking at the what point was this? At roughly the 36-minute mark-ish, a successful team fight from Jin Air Greenwings ends up getting 3 kills, 2 towers, and just more progress going back towards Jin Air Greenwings, and they're able to stall this game out. I think they even get an inhibitor. Did they get an inhibitor there? I think they even got an inhibitor there. So that was really able to stall things out. A Baron steal by is able to get them another Baron over there for them, so they actually like even the score on that Baron power play. In fact, get a 2.1k gold lead for Jin Air Greenwings and able to move that forward. In this game, also to note, in terms of Twix and Ban, I know I'll talk about that more with other teams, and I didn't really talk about it in this game until now, but Singed over in the top lane on Expression, he was basically doing Singed things all game, and it was working for so long, and then eventually it was just kind of like stalled out the effectiveness of the Singe, but Maokai on the top lane for Ixu ended up being a much better pick, even though like honestly like Singe for the longest time with that Dank seal build where you build 3 Dark Seals ends up working for a really long time. Eventually you're just kind of like tanky and don't do anything. There's a lot of fights where Expression was just kind of in there, and he's kind of tanky but not like Maokai tanky, so they just kind of melted Expression, and then on really bad flanks, honestly, like it's just really bad engages and stuff like that, so it wasn't quite as good. Crash was ended up playing the Kha'Zix, which got banned out in a lot of games before this, so he finally gets to have his Kha'Zix after obviously the really big Rengar game that was just played. He does do well, go 7-3-9, and they do end up winning this game in the long run. This game actually goes 65 minutes. 67 minutes. It took them that long to finally win this game, but the game kind of stalled out. And Longzhu, this team that's supposed to be kind of a lot better than some people think. Sorry, it's supposed to be kind of a lot better than Jin Air Greenwings. I know I said at the beginning of the show that they're kind of getting even the standings. These games kind of just prove to me that they are, going to end up kind of evening in the standings. Like Prey and Gorilla, obviously coming from Rocks Tigers before, like this bot lane is pretty hype, and Fly is a really great mid laner. Expression is a solid top laner, and Crash is supposed to be a very, very good assassin jungler. And it's just like they need to work on their macro game, and if they can kind of get that going, they'd be much better, because they should have won this game a little bit easier, especially, like I said, a 6.2k gold lead at 35 minutes. That should have just like kind of ended up you winning the game. But this game gets crazy stalled out, and it ends up going in favor of Longzhu Gaming. So good job, Longzhu, for finally winning. But there's gonna be there's a lot of tape of a lot of mistakes. If you want to watch this again, it's a over hour-long game. There's plenty of mistakes for them to learn from, and we'll see how that turns out from there. So moving on to the next game, we have MVP versus Afreeca Freecs. Like I said last week, MVP did lose, and it was looking like maybe they'd be kind of that bottom barrel team. Not a lot of superstar names on this team, perhaps for good reason. Like, yeah, MVP, just like they were the team that rivaled BBQ Olivers before, and they finished 6th, I believe, last LCK split. But I just think there's so many changes and so many better rosters out there that this is going to be one of the bottom tier teams. It should be like between them and maybe Jin Air Greenwings at this point, kind of who's going to be sitting at the bottom of the standings. But anyway, but they flex, and they play very, very strong in this game. Again, that Corki pick comes out again and proves to be super strong against Kuro, who was playing on the Orianna, and that should have been super strong. Marin gets away from the Kennen pick because it was banned by MVP. Didn't want to face that freaking AED Kennen like Marin went off last week. I'm losing it, but MVP does a really, really good job in the first game. Like Ian just kind of goes off, and he goes 9-0 and 6. The bot lane just does well. Kind of like that level 6 point where you have that Malzahar support. You just kind of jump on someone, you can kill someone really, 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 really quick. Probably the best. Maybe the best, like what's it called? Level 6 power spike in the game. The bot lane at the moment, it's just super effective, and it's just a long oppressing suppression that he puts down on someone. So that pick ends up being very, very strong, and yeah, this ends up being kind of a little bit of an Ian show and playing on that pick. So you play the next game, and it ends up kind of going the other way. Kuro goes off on the Cassiopeia 7-0-5. Marin plays a lot better on the Maokai. This time goes 1-0-9. Interesting to note that the Kennen was left up for him. It ended up being banned in the second round, set of bans, so they didn't decide to first pick it or anything like that, mostly because the Rengar was up, so they picked up that Rengar with that first pick, and then left that top laner for later. They just kind of end up rotating his team and just kind of end up being a bit of a better comp in the pick ban. Leaving up that Rengar is just super sketchy right now in the LCK. Too many people are too good on it. Beyond tries to play Shyvana over in the jungle, and that's not really an answer to that Rengar. You saw in EU LCS, maybe one of the answers is, and it's one of those things that's hard to tell, like, is it just because the EU LCS and they're bad, or if it's actually a counter. Putting in shields, basically. MVP has Ian on Orianna, but like the Lulu pick to them in the EU LCS looked like being the counter, but I don't think MVP wasn't tempted to do that. Maybe they didn't practice a lot of it because they keep on with the Malzahar instead at support, so I can kind of see that, and I can kind of understand that. So it's entirely possible that Lulu pick might actually be a big counter to Rengar, because again, you just like kind of ult someone that he jumps on, and then Rengar didn't kill anybody, and he's kind of useless. But I don't know. Either way, didn't work on this game. They gave up the Rengar, and they end up losing. So you go to game 3. It's 1-1 now. You think, okay, well, they flexed. Afreeca Freecs is to come back here and win it. Kuro actually ends up going on the Katarina, so you're like, oh man, Kuro owns Katarina. It's just gonna go off. It's gonna be super, super cool. It's gonna be awesome. But what kind of ends up happening is that this jungler ends up being getting early kills very early in this game. 2 kills go over to MVP Beyond playing on the Elise at like before the 2-minute mark, and then right after 2, like just like 2 kills back to back onto Marin, who again played Kennen in this game, so you were gonna be hyped about him playing Kennen again. 2 kills right away. Elise, bam, bam. Rex Marin, and it was just kind of from there, it was all MVP's game. You also saw Maha playing on the Varus, goes 5-1-2, and it's just, there was just not enough kind of going for the Afreeca Freecs at this point of the game. They kind of really played that early game poorly, and it was enough to let MVP kind of snowball and take the rest of this game. Yeah. That was that game between these two. So a little bit disappointing. Afreeca Freecs, obviously they needed to win against the game against MVP. As I said, they look like a team that might be somewhere near the bottom of the standings, but now they're end up with a 1-1 record, and maybe that rivalry with BBQ Oliver's is gonna be real. Like they can fight out of the bottom again. They're probably fighting at the bottom with BBQ, Jin Air Greenwings, and I guess Kongdoo Monsters as well. So like they could end up not being at the very bottom, but like that's kind of where I predict them to end up being between them and Kongdoo at this point, I think actually. So we'll see. They now go with a 1-1 record and are finishing off pretty well. So our last game, you have Kongdoo Monster and SKT. I actually don't have a whole lot to say about this one. Huni looks like an MVP. And crazy to say that on this SKT team with Peanut and Faker and Bang and Wolf, but first game, I guess it stays kind of even for a while. There is some back and forth killing that kind of ends up happening, but Faker, he's gonna look good on a character like Corki, 7-1-6. Huni actually plays like a god in this game. He goes on that pop. He goes 5-1-11, and it's awesome. Wreck. They try the Ziggs bot lane, doesn't work. Bang and Wolf just do too good of a job of not letting him get to towers. And then in game 2 is just kind of Huni doesn't play a tank. Oh, what a loser. He's only a tank player, but no, he plays Gangplank. Does really well, goes 2-0-6, and Rex, they give up. The Katarina goes over to Faker, and Faker styles on people. This game was even more of a roll than the first game, because at least the first game was kind of close for at least a little bit. But this is just kind of like bam, dominated. They win it in 26 minutes, and the game's over. So again, I don't have a whole lot of analysis of that game. It's just like Faker's better than everyone. And Huni actually looks like an MVP a little bit. Faker in that second game, I did actually give up first blood to Edge, who was playing the Cassiopeia in that second game, but didn't prove to matter very much. Because SKT rolled. So that's that. We actually let's look at the standings after week 1 here in the LCK and kind of talk about each team very quickly before I sign off here. So as kind of predictably, the 2-2-0 teams are KT Rolster and SK Telecom T1. They're top of standings. Who looks stronger than the other one? Hard to say. They both kind of played against bad teams. We've yet to see them really see what they can do and what the rest of the season. It's going to be more interesting when they play against each other to actually shake them out. Both teams should just beat every other team in the league, and then the games against each other should be strong. So then the 1-1 teams end up being Longzhu Gaming. Again, you kind of expect them to be a bit better. They should have been another 2-0 team, but oh well, they weren't. Samsung Galaxy, obviously they finished second place last split. Last Worlds, and they drop a game, they win a game, but I don't know, Samsung Galaxy, they keep kind of the same roster. I think they're going to be fine. Rocks Tigers at 1-1. Obviously, this brand new Rocks Tigers, not like all the same people from before. Very good for them to start off 1-1, so good for them. We'll see how that kind of keeps going. BBQ Olivers at 1-1. Again, I'm really hyped about this team. I think this team has a shot at playoffs. Just to make it to the playoffs and then get wrecked by a KT or SKT. But like, I think they look really good. I think they're gonna be that top tier of the middle, top tier of of the middle, yeah. So maybe like 6ish or something. I don't know. MVP, yeah, they end up winning that game against Afreeca Freecs, so maybe they're better than I thought they were, and are going to continue to be strong. Afreeca Freecs got to be disappointed at 1-1. They should have been 2-0. This is a team that really wants to start 2-0. They make some big acquisitions, and they don't make it. Kongdoo Monster, Jin Air Greenwings, maybe predictably 0-2 for those two teams at least, so they end up being at the bottom of the table in the LCK. So next week's games that we're going to be talking about tomorrow, Tuesday, January 24th, will be SK Telecom T1 versus Rocks Tigers. So I expect that to be a SK Telecom win. Samsung Galaxy versus MVP again, and maybe MVP is better than I think they are, but I think Samsung Galaxy is going to win this game. Samsung Galaxy has to win this game, I feel like. But also going on in next week, you're also a Longzhu Gaming versus KT Rolster, BBQ All versus Jin Air Greenwings, and that's going to be a potential hype matchup, I actually think, between BBQ All and Jin Air Greenwings. Longzhu Gaming want to come back and be stronger, so I think this might be a decent test for KT Rolster, but I do obviously think KT Rolster will just win that and win it pretty handily. Again, I feel like SKT and Longzhu don't have big tests for this week, but yeah, that's the only game. There's no Saturday or Sunday game for next week, so that's just that's pretty much it. Yeah, that is the LCK next week, and those are my predictions for that. This has been LCK for this first week. It's been a pretty hype week, and I've really enjoyed it. If you like this show, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. I'll be doing the show as I try to do it every day after the LCK games, like, well, not directly after, because I need to sleep, and then I'll wake up and then be refreshed, and then, because these games happen at 2 a.m. at my time, so it's a bit rough to do it instantly. I just want to kind of, admittedly, I usually watch the first game at 2 a.m., and then the next morning I watch the second game, and then do the show. So that's how my workflow works for this. And so, but yes, the same Tuesday that game is out, I try to do this on the show. I just had to do this episode for this one specifically just a little later, but we'll try to keep consistent as much as we can. Subscribe to the channel for more of those videos. I do stream on this channel too. I actually stream on YouTube, not on Twitch or anything, so you can check that out. Into the League, check that out. Subscribe, like Facebook and Twitter down there. Go for that. Facebook will update you on videos. Twitter is a bit more freeform, live things, especially when I'm watching, whether it's NALCS or LCK or whatever. And subscribe to twitch.aybtv. I stream there on Tuesdays. It's kind of a streaming group of people. I'm the senior sports editor for AYB Online, so I go over there and I stream on Tuesdays for them. So that's that. See you next time. And LCK has been a fun week, and I don't know why I'm singing or doing a dance. I'm just out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Cheers.